The video begins with a soft yet somber tone, introducing the protagonist in a dark and cold street, holding his child close. The weight of the moment is clear. He's weak, his body drained of strength, yet he's pressing on, hoping for some last miracle to save his sick child. His thoughts are filled with confusion and betrayal, casting back to why he ended up here, alone, holding their ailing child while his wife is absent. The protagonist's voice reflects deep sorrow and disbelief as he recounts the events that led to this tragic moment. His words are heavy, his tone filled with heartbreak as he speaks directly to the audience. "I never thought that the person I loved the most would one day leave me stranded on the streets, abandoned with our sick child. While she celebrated the birthday of her first love, my life was unraveling. Our child was suffering in my arms, and I was helpless, desperate for even a shred of warmth, a whisper of hope. But all I had was the cold street beneath me and the brutal silence of the night." The scene shifts to a brief flashback of happier times, showcasing the family's beginnings. The protagonist remembers moments of laughter, quiet days spent together, and the joy of welcoming their child into the world. These memories are short but vivid, highlighting his love for his wife and their commitment as a family. It contrasts with the present moment where he finds himself alone. As he recounts these memories, a subtle tension builds. The protagonist reveals how his wife started becoming distant, mentioning instances when she seemed preoccupied, her mind drifting to someone from her past. Though he never voiced his suspicions, he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was losing her bit by bit. Back in the present, the protagonist speaks of his anguish as he realizes that he's all his child has in this moment. He describes the child's weak breaths, the feeling of their frail body in his arms, and the overwhelming despair that consumes him as he waits, hoping, praying that his wife will return or someone will help. The scene opens with the protagonist looking down at his child, whose face is pale, breathing shallow and body weak. He gently brushes the child's hair, his face etched with worry and exhaustion. The audience can feel the weight of his responsibility as he clutches his child, his last hope slipping away as the hours pass. The protagonist's voice is low, filled with helplessness as he describes the child's sudden illness. Just days ago, everything seemed fine, and now, here he is, unable to do anything but watch his child suffer. The details are simple yet poignant, emphasizing his frustration and sorrow as a parent who can do nothing but hold his child close. "I had no warning, no sign that my child would fall so ill. One moment, I was a father with a happy family, and the next, I was on a dark street, clutching my child in my arms, praying for a miracle. My hands were trembling, my heart racing. But she wasn't there. The one person I needed most was somewhere else, celebrating a memory that didn't include me." The story flashes back to earlier that day. The protagonist, increasingly worried, had tried calling his wife multiple times. Each call went unanswered. He even sent messages, each one more desperate than the last, hoping she would see his pleas and return. His words reflect a deep sense of betrayal as he realizes she never intended to be there when they needed her most. "I tried to reach her, to tell her our child was sick, but there was no answer. I thought maybe she was just busy, that any moment she'd walk through the door with that comforting smile. But with every unanswered call, every ignored message, I began to understand she wasn't coming." As he stands there in the street, reality begins to settle in. The protagonist realizes his wife is celebrating with her first love, someone she never truly let go of. His voice is filled with disbelief as he expresses his shock and sadness, struggling to comprehend why she would choose another over her own family. "While I was out here, holding our child, desperate to keep him warm, she was with him, celebrating his birthday, sharing memories I was never a part of. The woman I trusted, the mother of my child, she was somewhere else, while our family fell apart." The part ends with the protagonist sinking to his knees on the cold street, his child in his arms. He looks up at the empty sky, whispering a desperate plea for help, even though he feels utterly alone. "I didn't know what else to do. My heart was breaking, and every second felt like an eternity. All I could do was hold my child close and wait, hoping someone, anyone, would come to save us." The scene opens with the protagonist wrapping his coat around his child, trying to shield them from the biting cold. He shifts uncomfortably, adjusting himself to keep his child warm. Even as he shivers, his face is worn and pale, but he keeps going, focused only on keeping his child safe. The protagonist's voice is gentle yet firm as he reflects on the powerful bond between a parent and child. Despite the betrayal he feels, he finds strength within himself to continue. He reassures his child softly, even as his heart breaks. No matter how cold it got, no matter how much pain I felt, I had to keep going. A father's job is to protect his child, even when no one else is there to help. So I sat there, holding him tight, whispering that everything would be okay, even if deep down, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. As he looks down at his child's face, he is reminded of precious memories. Moments of laughter and joy fill his mind. A family trip to the park, the child's first steps, and the sound of their giggles. These memories give him a brief sense of warmth and courage. His voice softens as he recalls these joyful times, adding a bittersweet layer to the present scene. I remember the day he took his first steps. He stumbled and laughed, and she and I shared a look, thinking we'd be there to guide him every step of the way. I never imagined that I'd be here alone, clinging to those memories, while my own strength faded away. The scene returns to the cold night, with the child nestled against his father's chest. The protagonist's hope starts to waver as he realizes there may be no help coming. He shifts uncomfortably, his breath shallow, but he keeps himself focused, refusing to let despair overtake him. I kept telling myself help was coming. I had to believe it for his sake. Maybe someone would see us and stop. Maybe she'd remember the family waiting for her and come back to us. I couldn't afford to let go of that last shred of hope. As the hours pass and no one comes, the protagonist finally accepts the cruel truth. His wife is gone, and no one else is there to help. His voice trembles as he expresses this moment of crushing realization, sharing the pain of betrayal and loss with the audience. It was then that I understood. I was on my own. She had chosen someone else, and no one was coming for us. I had no one to rely on but myself, and I had to keep fighting, even if it meant using my last ounce of strength. The part closes with a close-up of the father's face, his eyes filled with both sadness and steely determination. His voice hardens as he whispers to his child that he will protect them, no matter what. The scene captures his love, resolve, and the sacrifices he's willing to make, setting the tone for the next part of his journey. I don't know what will happen, but I promise I'll keep you safe. As long as I'm breathing, I won't let you go. As dawn begins to break, a faint light illuminates the street, casting long shadows across the cold ground. The protagonist's face is pale and drawn, but his arms remain wrapped around his child, who sleeps fitfully. Every breath he takes feels heavier, his strength dwindling, but he refuses to let go. In a low, weary voice he speaks to his child, almost as if reassuring himself as well. He recalls the promises he made to his wife when they first started their life together, a life they were supposed to share, filled with joy and trust. His tone softens, tinged with regret and disbelief. We promised each other we'd face life together, no matter what. But here I am, holding on to you alone, while she's somewhere else, celebrating a past that never included me. I never thought I'd feel so distant from the person I trusted the most. He takes a shuddering breath, his gaze fixed on the horizon as memories flood his mind. Brief flashbacks show scenes from their wedding day, quiet moments of laughter and intimacy, and the joy they shared when their child was born. Each memory feels like a bittersweet reminder of a life he thought would last forever. His voice breaks as he reflects on the love they once shared and how it turned into something unrecognizable. I loved her more than I loved myself. I would have done anything to make her happy. And I thought she felt the same. But love like that doesn't fade overnight. She was slipping away long before I realized. As he sits there, struggling to process his wife's betrayal, the protagonist feels a sharp pang of guilt. He wonders if he missed the signs, if he could have done something differently to keep his family together. The guilt is overwhelming, but he steels himself, glancing down at his child with a newfound sense of purpose. None of that matters now. What matters is you, my little one. I will protect you, even if it costs me everything. He pulls his child closer, his resolve strengthening despite the bitterness of his circumstances. In that moment, he accepts that he may not have the answers, but he won't let his child suffer due to their mother's choices. He promises himself and his child that he will be the parent they need, no matter how difficult the path ahead. As long as I'm here, I'll give you everything I have. I'll never let you feel alone or unwanted. I'm your father, and that's a promise I will never break. The park closes with the first rays of sunlight casting a warm glow on the two of them, contrasting the cold, empty street. It's a quiet but powerful moment, showing the depth of a father's love, resilience, and unwavering commitment to his child, even in the darkest times. As the sun rises higher, casting its light over the streets, the protagonist feels a surge of renewed strength. Despite the pain and exhaustion, he knows he must keep moving. With a quiet resolve, he lifts his child into his arms, cradling them as he begins to walk down the empty street, hoping to find help. His steps are slow and labored, each one heavier than the last, but he presses forward, refusing to give in to despair. In a soft voice, he whispers to his child, comforting them as they stir in his arms. The exhaustion and sadness in his voice are evident, but so is his determination to keep going for their sake. Just a little longer. I promise we'll find someone to help us. I won't stop until you're safe. As he trudges along, flashes of the night before return to his mind. The missed calls, the unanswered texts, the realization that his wife had chosen to be with someone else. The bitterness lingers, but he pushes it aside, focusing on the only thing that matters, his child's well-being. His eyes catch the faint outlines of people in the distance. His heart leaps with a faint hope as he hurries his pace, struggling against his exhaustion. However, as he draws closer, he notices the indifferent glances, the way people avoid his gaze, stepping aside without offering a word of assistance. The cold indifference of strangers stings, and he realizes just how truly alone they are. It's strange, isn't it? He murmurs to his child. In a world full of people, we can still feel so alone. The weight of abandonment feels heavier than ever, the memory of his wife's absence echoing in the way these strangers walk past, not sparing a second glance. Each step becomes harder, the pain more intense, but he refuses to stop. He draws strength from his love for his child, clinging to the hope that someone, somewhere, will care enough to help. At last, he stumbles, his legs giving out beneath him. He sinks to the ground, clutching his child tightly. His breaths are shallow, his voice barely a whisper as he apologizes, tears filling his eyes. I'm sorry. I wanted to be stronger for you, to take you to safety. I thought I could be enough, but maybe I was wrong. He looks around, his gaze filled with desperation, silently pleading for someone to notice, for someone to care. His voice cracks as he speaks to his child, pouring his heart out, feeling the weight of his own perceived failure. I'm so sorry. I wanted to be enough for you. I never wanted you to feel alone. Just as he begins to lose hope, he feels a faint touch. A passerby, noticing his weakened state, finally stops. The stranger's face is filled with concern as they reach out, asking if he needs help. The protagonist's eyes fill with relief, a glimmer of hope returning as he nods weakly, clinging to the possibility of rescue. This part closes with the stranger calling for assistance, and for the first time, the protagonist feels a faint sense of hope that he and his child might finally find the help they so desperately need. The stranger's face is filled with genuine concern as they kneel beside the protagonist, taking in his pale face and trembling hands. Gently, they offer to help him to his feet, supporting him as he struggles to stand. The weight of exhaustion bears down on him, but the knowledge that someone has finally noticed fills him with a small but profound relief. He holds his child tightly, feeling a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, they will be safe. The stranger's voice is calm and kind as they ask him what happened. For the first time, he finds himself opening up, sharing the story of his child's illness, the lonely hours spent waiting, and the crushing absence of his wife. His voice trembles as he recounts the pain of being left alone to face their child's suffering, his words filled with a mix of sorrow and disbelief. I kept hoping she'd come back, that she'd remember we were here, that she'd care enough to put us first, but I waited all night, and she never came. The stranger listens with compassion, nodding as they take in every word. They assure him that he and his child are safe now, that help is on the way. Their kindness is a balm to his wounds, a reminder that, even in the darkest moments, there are still good people willing to lend a hand. As they wait for an ambulance, the protagonist gazes down at his child, his heart heavy yet filled with newfound determination. He realizes that he cannot change his wife's choices, nor can he undo the pain of the night before. But he can make a promise to himself, to be there for his child, to build a life of love and security, free from the shadows of betrayal and abandonment. I may not have all the answers, but I know this. I'll be the parent you deserve. I'll be enough for both of us. Just then, the sound of sirens fills the air, growing louder as the ambulance approaches. Relief washes over him as he realizes help is finally within reach. He whispers softly to his child, his voice filled with gratitude. "We're going to be okay now. We're safe." Feel the weight of the past night slip away. For the first time, he allows himself to close his eyes, knowing they are in safe hands. The kindness of one stranger has restored his hope, giving him the strength to start anew. This part concludes with a close-up of the protagonist's hand gently holding his child's, a symbol of his promise to protect them and build a future filled with love and safety. As the ambulance doors close, the screen fades to black, leaving viewers with a sense of closure and the power of resilience. The ambulance moves through the city streets, its siren blaring, as the protagonist lies beside his child, holding their small hand tightly. His eyes are closed, his breathing finally steady, but his mind is still racing. Although he feels immense relief, there's a lingering sadness, an ache left by his wife's absence and betrayal. He realizes that moving forward won't be easy. He'll have to rebuild his life from the ground up, for both himself and his child. He looks down at his child's peaceful face, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Quietly, he vows to dedicate himself entirely to their happiness. To ensure that they feel the love and security he now knows he cannot count on from anyone else. "I can't promise you a perfect life," he whispers, "but I promise I'll give you all that I have. You'll never feel alone, not as long as I'm here." As they reach the hospital, the paramedics help him out of the ambulance, and he is immediately taken in for care. Nurses rush to tend to his child, and he watches anxiously, grateful for the help but fearful of what the doctors might say. Despite his exhaustion, he stays alert, refusing to leave his child's side. His face is a mixture of concern, love, and exhaustion, as he waits for news. Hours pass in a blur of doctors, nurses, and waiting. Each moment is filled with a silent plea that his child will be okay. He clings to hope, knowing that, after all they've endured, they deserve a future together. The hours are long, but he feels stronger, more resilient, determined to push through for his child's sake. Finally, a doctor approaches him with a gentle smile, letting him know his child is stable and will recover. The weight of worry lifts, replaced by a wave of overwhelming relief. Tears well up in his eyes as he thanks the doctor, unable to express the gratitude he feels. In that moment, he realizes that he and his child are truly beginning a new chapter, one free from the pain of betrayal. Though the journey ahead may be difficult, he now believes that they'll face it together, with resilience and love guiding their way. As he sits by his child's bedside, holding their small hand, he whispers once more, this time with a gentle smile, "We made it. We're going to be okay." The camera slowly pulls back, showing the protagonist and his child resting together in the hospital room. The quiet strength in his expression is a testament to his journey, a father's unwavering love, and the determination to protect his child, no matter the cost. Days pass, and as the protagonist watches over his child in the hospital, he begins to feel a sense of peace he hasn't known in a long time. Though he's still haunted by the memories of betrayal, he finds comfort in the knowledge that his child is safe, and that they are finally free to rebuild their lives without fear of abandonment. One morning, as he's sitting by his child's bed, a nurse enters with a soft smile and hands him a piece of paper. It's a discharge form. His child is healthy enough to go home. Relief and joy fill his heart, knowing they're ready to leave the hospital and start anew. The protagonist packs their things, gently waking his child and helping them prepare to go home. They walk out of the hospital together, stepping into a new chapter of their lives. He's filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty, but he's determined to create a life where his child feels safe, loved, and valued. As they leave, he reflects on the lessons learned from this painful journey. Though he once felt shattered and defeated, he now understands the power of resilience, the importance of cherishing the people who truly matter, and the strength that comes from facing adversity with courage. He feels an unbreakable bond with his child, a bond forged in the hardest of times and built on a foundation of unconditional love. Looking down at his child, he offers a gentle smile, his voice filled with both promise and hope. "This is our new beginning. No matter what, I'll be here for you. Together, we'll create a life filled with love, one day at a time." They walk down the hospital steps, hand in hand, leaving the past behind. The scene closes with them moving forward into the sunlight, symbolizing the strength they've gained and the brighter future that awaits them. The video fades to black with a simple message on the screen. True strength isn't measured by what we endure, but by the love we give. Even in the darkest times, love can guide us home. Months have passed since that fateful night, and the protagonist's life has gradually shifted toward healing and growth. As he sits on a park bench, watching his child laugh and play, he feels a deep sense of gratitude for the life they now share. He reflects on how far they've come, from the cold streets and heartache to a new life filled with warmth and laughter. In a quiet voice, he shares his final thoughts, letting the audience in on his inner journey since those dark days. His tone is thoughtful, tinged with both sorrow for the past and hope for the future. "There was a time when I thought I couldn't move forward, when the betrayal I felt seemed too deep to heal. But I've learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising again, finding purpose in the love we hold for others." He acknowledges the pain of losing the life he once knew, yet he speaks of the unexpected blessings that arose from his struggle. He's learned to find joy in the simple moments, to treasure the laughter of his child and the peace that comes from a life free from betrayal. "I won't pretend that the pain has vanished completely, but it no longer defines me. Each day, I'm learning to live with gratitude, to embrace the love I have right here, right now." As he watches his child run toward him, he opens his arms, lifting them into the air with a smile. The love in his gaze is unmistakable, the bond between them stronger than ever. He understands that while the past will always be a part of him, it no longer controls his life. The camera captures their laughter, their joy, a testament to resilience and healing. The scene fades out with the protagonist's final words. "Together, we've built something beautiful out of the ashes. And as long as I have you by my side, I know we can face whatever comes our way." The video ends with a message of hope and resilience, leaving viewers with a reminder of the transformative power of love and the strength to rebuild, even after the darkest of times. "This is our new beginning. No matter what, I'll be here for you. Together, we'll create a life filled with love, one day at a time." They walk down the hospital steps, hand in hand, leaving the past behind. The scene closes with them moving forward into the sunlight, symbolizing the strength they've gained and the brighter future that awaits them. The video fades to black with a simple message on the screen. True strength isn't measured by what we endure, but by the love we give. Even in the darkest times, love can guide us home. Months have passed since that fateful night, and the protagonist's life has gradually shifted toward healing and growth. As he sits on a park bench, watching his child laugh and play, he feels a deep sense of gratitude for the life they now share. He reflects on how far they've come, from the cold streets and heartache to a new life filled with warmth and laughter. In a quiet voice, he shares his final thoughts, letting the audience in on his inner journey since those dark days. His tone is thoughtful, tinged with both sorrow for the past and hope for the future. "There was a time when I thought I couldn't move forward, when the betrayal I felt seemed too deep to heal. But I've learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising again, finding purpose in the love we hold for others." He acknowledges the pain of losing the life he once knew, yet he speaks of the unexpected blessings that arose from his struggle. He's learned to find joy in the simple moments, to treasure the laughter of his child and the peace that comes from a life free from betrayal. "I won't pretend that the pain has vanished completely, but it no longer defines me. Each day I'm learning to live with gratitude, how to embrace the love I have right here, right now. As he watches his child run toward him, he opens his arms, lifting them into the air with a smile. The love in his gaze is unmistakable. The bond between them, stronger than ever. He understands that while the past will always be a part of him, it no longer controls his life. The camera captures their laughter, their joy, a testament to resilience and healing. The scene fades out with the protagonist's final words. Together, we've built something beautiful out of the ashes. And as long as I have you by my side, I know we can face whatever comes our way. The video ends with a message of hope and resilience, leaving viewers with a reminder of the transformative power of love and the strength to rebuild even after the darkest of times. He shares his gratitude for the small joys that fill their lives now, the laughter at bedtime, the quiet moments reading together, and the peace they've found. He reflects on how adversity has taught him to treasure every moment, knowing that he's become a better, stronger person for his child. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that we all have the power to heal, to rebuild. The past may shape us, but it doesn't define who we are. We can choose love, resilience, and hope, even when the world feels darkest. His gaze shifts to his child, playing happily in the room. A soft smile crosses his face as he realizes just how far they've come and how much he's gained by choosing to let go of the pain. His love and commitment to his child have become his true purpose, guiding him forward. The final shot captures them together, the protagonist wrapping his arms around his child, a look of contentment and quiet strength in his eyes. The screen fades to black with a closing message. In the face of pain, we can choose love. In the face of betrayal, we can choose forgiveness. And in the face of loss, we can choose to build something beautiful once again. It's a quiet evening. The protagonist and his child sit on a bench at a nearby park, the setting sun casting a warm, golden light over them. They're surrounded by the sounds of laughter and life. But he sits in silence, watching his child play with a sense of calm and fulfillment that feels almost surreal. As he sits there, he feels a familiar pang, a memory of the life he thought he'd have, and beats. It's been a year since that night, and the protagonist has found a rhythm, creating a stable, loving environment for his child. They've moved to a new home, away from the memories of the past, where each day is filled with warmth, laughter, and love. In a quiet moment at home, the protagonist sits by the window, gazing out with a serene expression, reflecting on the journey they've walked together. In a gentle, steady voice, he shares his thoughts on resilience, speaking directly to the viewers, his words echoing the strength he's gained through his struggles. He now understands the importance of moving forward and choosing love over resentment. I thought that night would break me. I thought I'd never escape the pain, that it would follow me wherever I went. But each day I've learned that healing is a journey, one step at a time. Love has been my guide, and my child has been my strength. A family he believed they'd build together. His eyes soften, and he lets himself feel the weight of everything they've been through, the hardships they survived. For the first time, he allows himself to grieve not with anger or pain, but with acceptance. In a gentle, reflective tone, he speaks aloud, almost as if sharing his thoughts with his child, even though they're too young to understand fully. His voice is steady, but carries a quiet ache that hints at all he's endured. There was a time when I felt so alone, so lost. I didn't know if I could keep going. But you gave me a reason to keep fighting, a reason to hold on. You taught me that love can make us stronger than anything life throws at us. He looks up at the sky, taking a deep, calming breath, and a single tear rolls down his cheek. This is not a tear of sorrow, but rather of release, of finally letting go of the hurt that once weighed so heavily on his heart. It's a moment of healing, one that has been a long time coming. As he gathers his child into his arms, he whispers words of love and reassurance, a promise that he will always be there, no matter what. His voice is filled with both sadness and joy, capturing the bittersweet beauty of their journey. We've come so far, haven't we? And no matter what lies ahead, I promise I'll be by your side. You and me will face it together, my little one. The child wraps their arms around him, leaning into his embrace with a look of pure contentment. In that moment, the protagonist realizes that he has truly found peace, that he has built something beautiful out of the darkness. He feels whole again, not because of the past, but because of the love they have in the present. The final shot lingers on them, holding each other close as the sun dips below the horizon, casting a warm glow over them. The screen fades to black with one last message. True healing comes not from forgetting the past, but from embracing the present with an open heart. Love can be the light that guides us home.